Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 284, Carnivore, Hunting, and Raising Low-Carb Kids with my friend Maria Emmerich, and I am fired up for this one, people. This is a good one. This may very well be one of my top interviews that I have ever been a part of. Maria is super cool. You know, she's somebody that's a leader in the low carb community, and I have her already up on a pedestal, and she just over delivered with how cool she was, how real she was. And we got to talk about a lot of cool stuff. Before we dive into that, quick reminder, the month of October, this is the last chance for 2019 to do a 10-day free trial inside of my coaching program. If you need a little bit of accountability, a little bit of a boost heading into the holiday season, this is your jam. Head on over to millionpoundmission.com, start your free 10-day trial before the month is up, and experience my Transformation Reboot coaching program. Now, have you guys ever wondered what exactly the carnivore diet is all about? And like I said, the low-carb community is out there growing stronger every single day. And with this episode, I am bringing one of the leaders of that community onto the show to talk about all things keto, low-carb, and carnivore. And Maria Emmerich is a nutritionist. She specializes in the ketogenic diet and exercise physiology. She struggled with her health, and we get into that. You know, growing up, her story of how she transformed from somebody that was struggling with her health to somebody that's helping others overcome all these health struggles. And she just has that expertise that is leading her around the world, speaking on big stages and inspiring people all over the place. Now, this episode, we dive into some really great things. We covered a broad range of topics that I'm really proud of that we were able to squeeze all that in. We talk about her macronutrient strategy with her low-carb clients. This is a little different tweak than a lot of people, the way they coach in the ketogenic sphere especially. So I think you're going to get something out of that. We talk about the basics of the carnivore nutrition plan. She gives us 3 levels that we can participate in carnivore at. We talk about her favorite bow hunting story, and she actually gets emotional and cries a little bit a couple different times during the interview. This is one of them, so hopefully I'll pique your interest with that a little bit. And then we wrap it up. We talk about how she's raising her children with a low-carb nutrition style. And that, again, I think a lot of us know that we need to clean up our kids' nutrition. It's just hard to do. It's hard to pull off sometimes, and she gives us some great tips. So this interview, again, it's a good one. If you get something out of this, I would love for you to tag me on Instagram at Million Pound Mission. Let me know what you think. Otherwise, without further delay, let's dive into episode number 284, Carnivore, Hunting, and Raising Low-Carb Kids with Maria Emmerich. All right, Maria, welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. How are we doing today, my friend?
I'm great. Thank you, Adam, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I love your mission.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you for your contribution and adding some knowledge and energy and momentum. And now you're a part of it. So when we cross that next 1,000 pounds, like you're a part of that. Somebody will hear something that you say, they will implement, and they will get a result because of you. So thank you, Maria. Now you're somebody I've been a fan of for quite a while. Your recipe material, your healthy tips that you're always putting out. But I really just dove deep on you and your background after hearing you speak at KetoCon. You just knocked my socks off with the presentation. I thought it was fantastic. And there's nothing really like seeing somebody speak in person, right? And
thank you so
that
much.
got me connected, you know, and I'm just thrilled to have you share your story with my audience here today. So I would love to kind of just start with the basics of, you know, how you went along in your own health journey. Because anybody that's an influencer at your level, there's a story there. So let's start with that.
I would be honored to tell you. Everybody always thinks I was, a thin person, and that was anything but the truth. I was told I was always going to be heavy. I was 16 years old, and I went to the doctor, and I didn't even tell my parents I was going. I just made the appointment and went because I knew something was not right with my body, with my hormones. And I was told at that appointment that I had Pcos, which is Polycystic Ovarian syndrome. And when you dive into that, that's basically a type 2 diabetes that is affecting female fertility. And I was very secretive about this diagnosis for many, 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 I shouldn't even say a decade, because it's just embarrassing. And once I opened up and told my story, hundreds, thousands of women are telling me their story and how they fixed that. But at that appointment, I was also given an antidepressant because I was severely depressed. I had acid reflux, so I was given an acid blocker, and I also had IBS. And so the doctor told me to take this fluorescent orange Citracel every day. And now we know it's just filled with nothing but food dye and sugar and fake fiber. But I was given a couple prescription drugs at that appointment. Never did I fill them because that very same week, I took my dog Tiva to the vet. She was this beautiful golden retriever, but she was losing patches of her hair. And the first question the vet asked me was, what are you feeding her? Never once did my doctor ask me what I was eating. And actually, they said it was the cards I was dealt. It was nothing I was doing wrong. And so refusing to let the drugs be my diagnosis, I looked deeper into what causes PCOS. Well, it's a high androgens in a female body. We want some, but not too many. It's excess sugar, carbohydrates, and caffeine. Now, let me tell you, Adam, I was working at a coffee shop where I drank mochas for free, like they were going out of style. And at the end of the day, any cinnamon roll, any muffin, any scone that did not sell went home with me. And I am not kidding. And I ate most of them too. And so no wonder why I was sick and unhealthy. I was living off of junk and caffeine. And so for me, with PCOS, a lot of times it's very difficult to lose weight at first. And I made some mistakes that I see now, but getting rid of the caffeine and the carbohydrates immediately lifted my moods to the point where I was never going to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you do any caffeine at all now, or
No.
is that completely out of the picture?
That's completely out of the picture. I don't do tea, anything like that. I'm actually really into cold therapy. So I'm always like drinking ice cold water, sitting in an ice tub. So people are like, what do you have for a warm drink? I'm like, I don't know. It's cold out now. I was out bow hunting and it's freezing, and I come in and I still have my ice water. I don't gravitate towards hot drinks anymore.
That's awesome. Now, so with your PCOS diagnosis, you talked about how that kind of hit you hard. And I know that there are a lot of females out there listening in that have had that exact same diagnosis. Could you just speak to them for a second as far as just some beginning tips of how to shift their mindset, how to just come out of that darkness like you did?
Yeah. First of all, like reach out to people that have dealt with it, whether it be me or, there's other people that have been open and honest about their situation. There's Facebook groups on about it. And that really helped me not feel like an alien anymore. Because as a female, we're supposed to have normal cycles and be able to have babies. And reaching out and realizing I'm not the only person and that there's answers out there really helped. Even as maybe popular as I was, when I finally put that out there, people were really like giving me virtual hugs, which felt really nice. And just knowing that it's not a simple answer, there's a lot of hormones in our food. There's people are really addicted to the caffeine. When I tell them to get rid of dairy, they don't get as upset as when I say you need to get rid of the coffee.
Yeah.
And, it's knowledge is power. Even if you don't want to go there right away, let it sit in your brain for a little bit. And most of the time people are open to it when they're ready.
Yeah. Great advice, Maria. Now, one of the things that my ears really perked up when I heard you speak in the past is that your ideas and your coaching around the macro profile that we talk about so much, we hear about so much, and there's a lot of confusion about. And shout out to one of my coaching clients, Lisa from up in Canada. she's a huge fan of yours, and she's like, you have to ask her about macros. Or
Hi, Lisa.
she threatened to like drive down. I think in Canada they like she'll ride a bison or a buffalo down to Indiana,
Nice,
and just like attack me if I don't ask you about macros and just your methodology around the fat specifically. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll let you take over from there.
Well, number one, people have been focusing on percentages, which will cause you to fail. Don't focus on percentages. It's just not the right way to go around finding out what's right for you. You want to focus on macros. And like you said, you saw it at KetoCon. I try to get people to understand when it comes to weight loss, if your body's already filled with fat, the majority of people I work with want to lose weight. You don't need to add more fat. It's physics. It's called the negative fat flux. We want to get into lipolysis where I actually tap into our body fat for fuel. But if you keep dumping thousands of calories of fat, whether it be liquid fat in bulletproof coffee or fat bombs, fat fast, if you do an egg fast, it's almost impossible to get your protein in. You're going to start losing your hair. You're not going to lose weight. And you're going to quit and say the keto diet failed me, when in reality, it's all this. I used to be the crazy lady 20 years ago talking about this type of a diet. And now all of these so-called experts come out of the woodworks and say you need to eat 70% fat in order to be keto. That's not necessarily true. If you fast, you'll see the highest ketones. You're not eating any fat, right?
Right.
You're eating nothing. And so this whole idea that, oh, you didn't lose any weight, eat an avocado. Wow, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Not only is that not proper, it's way too much carbohydrates. And people are like, aren't avocado keto? It's like, well, avocados have a lot of fiber in them, and you certainly cannot subtract fiber to get your total carbohydrates.
Right.
Which is another misconception that I see all the time.
Right. Yeah. The old net carb trap. I've seen people get thoroughly confused by that. So with what kind of parameters do you like to give people as far as the protein and the carbs then? Absolutely.
The biggest thing is you want to hit about 0.8 times your lean mass. And everybody's like, what's that? So your lean mass is your muscle mass and how much muscle you have in pounds. And you want to eat 0.8 times that. On average, it's about 80, 90, 100 grams for a female. That's like 5'4", okay? That is the thing that you have to hit. If you don't, your thyroid will suffer. Everybody's like, oh, you need carb ups for thyroid health. No, you need to hit your protein goal for thyroid health. Your thyroid needs all of these amino acids and zinc. Where does that come from? It doesn't come from fat. It doesn't come from carbohydrates. It comes from protein. And your hair follicles are made up of amino acids that come from protein. So all of these things that people complain about, I tried keto and I lost my hair. I tried keto and my thyroid suffered, all this. You need to focus on getting that. And this is an extreme, I'm not saying 300 grams of protein. I'm saying, 100. This isn't, a super high amount, but people, especially women, rarely hit that because they're doing more fat bombs. They're skipping breakfast, and they'll say, well, Maria, I fast until like 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, oh, really? You had nothing before that? Well, I have a bulletproof coffee. That's 500 calories of fat, honey. You did not fast.
Yes.
But that's what people, or they'll say, I didn't hit my percentage of fat in for the day, so I do a shot of MCT oil before bed. Really? Who told you to do that? That's not a good idea, So you want to focus on protein. Replace the fat bombs with like a beef stick. Everybody's like, Maria, what's the best protein bar out there? It's called a beef stick. Those so-called keto bars that taste like candy bars, they are candy bars. They have as much sugar as a Kit Kat bar, but everybody thinks you can subtract the carbohydrates to get the net carbohydrates, and that's not true.
Yeah.
But then you use, and I don't play golf, but you get the idea that you want the lowest score possible. That's how I treat carbohydrates. You can eat 0 if you can get there, but even eggs have carbohydrates, scallop have carbohydrates. So you probably get some, but try to keep it as low as possible. 10 total or less is great. 20 grams or less is okay. If that's all you can do, let's go there. And then you use fat as a lever. Like my kids, this is all they know. They don't need to lose any weight. So their fat dial is different. Being children, their protein dial is up a little bit more too. But, if you're not in it for weight loss, if you're doing it for something like epilepsy or seizures, I had the great opportunity to speak in Russia last November. And the doctor that hired me was a doctor who is one of the most renowned doctors for epilepsy. And so that diet would look different than someone that's doing keto for weight loss. If you have a lot of body fat, you can turn that down. If you're an athlete looking for performance, I turn the dial up of fat. It just depends on your goals. So, but I would say the misconception is I didn't lose any weight. Oh, add a fat bomb in the afternoon. It's like, no, it's probably more about your macros are messed up and what you're eating is bad too. And this is why my books are dairy and nut free, a lot of them, because dairy and nuts hold people back from results.
Wow. Yeah. So with what is it that dairy and nuts are doing inside of the body that is holding people back?
Well, dairy is a more common allergen than gluten. We poo-poo gluten in this keto world, and we don't address dairy rarely ever. And dairy is a very common allergen. It's very insulinogenic for the majority, over 50% of people. And so even though they think that, oh, my stomach doesn't hurt when I have cheese, cream cheese, heavy cream, butter, if they cut it out for 2 weeks, they do fantastic. And I'm from Wisconsin. This is dairy capital of the world. You might see this at the gas station,
Yeah.
So it's not something that everybody likes to hear, but some people would do anything for weight loss. So dairy and nuts. And nuts, the fiber adds up very quickly, especially cashews, pistachios. They're very high in starch. If you wouldn't eat a muffin on your regular diet expecting to lose weight, don't eat a keto muffin expecting to lose weight either.
Yes. So what about a scenario I see a lot of people doing, especially people that are like intermittent fasting? They come to me and they're like, oh, I'm not losing any weight. And I'm like, just track everything and send it to me. And they're eating like 700 calories a day. So how do you handle the calorie situation if people are just super, super low? What type of advice do you give them?
The starvation mode doesn't happen when you're keto. That's a big myth. But if they're eating 700 calories of fat, they will fail. If they're eating that 0.8 times your lean mass in protein, that's the only thing you have to hit. And that's about 800 grams of protein. But if you hit that, you're going to have to eat, lean protein that most people don't like chicken breasts and egg whites. Like if you hit that, you will be in ketosis. You will lose weight, but you have to hit that goal. So does that, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The whole starvation mode is when you are a glucose burner, and when you run out of glucose, which happens within about 2 to 3 hours, you're going to tap in either to your lean mass or your bones. And my brother was a bodybuilder. He would wake up in the middle of the night to eat like cottage cheese, to make sure that he doesn't lose that lean muscle tissue that happens overnight. But if you are in ketosis, you will tap into your fat stores. But you have to make sure that that's the only thing you have to get in as your protein goal. And I tell you, it works every time.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is that you're saying if people have body fat to use, let's use that as our primary fat fuel and not, the dairy and people get into keto. They're like, I want to eat bacon and cheese all day. So they just started crying when they heard you talk about the no dairy thing.
I know, but the knowledge is power. When they're ready to actually lose, they'll follow it. That's why, I wrote the Protein Sparing Modified Fast book that has a bunch of delicious recipes that, it's kind of like you said, you maybe dip your calories low a couple times a week. I never got into long-term fasting because I never wanted to lose my muscle. But if you, do the protein sparing modified fasting, 2 to 3 times a week, you have really great results. And then, you can have, most time people, they really need to cut the dairy out. I'm talking like all dairy, even butter. And nobody wants to hear that. But if it's not working and you really want to be successful, try it.
Yeah.
And people underestimate sleep. They think that they can sleep 6 hours a night and still have the results they want, and they can't. Blood sugars will be elevated with lack of sleep. Even like some great studies using Army Rangers where they didn't change their food at all. All they changed was their sleep patterns. And they allowed them only 6 hours of sleep a night. And after 3 nights, their cells started to look like a type 2 diabetic and their blood
Wow.
sugars were elevated. And so it's more than just food. It's more than just exercise. It's like the whole, that's why I'm into like sleep and cold therapy and like light therapy and all of that type of stuff because, you know, people are like, oh, come on, Maria, sleep and light and cold therapy. What is that going to do? Your mitochondria is where you oxidize fat. You got to take care of that mitochondria. And most people are not. And they're eating a lot of keto products that have damaged fats that are going to damage your mitochondria. Different medications will damage it. There's so many things that we're really not getting to the root cause of the problem.
Hey, this is just a quick reminder that this month, the month of October, is open enrollment for our Transformation Reboot membership. If you are somebody that has been sucked into that black hole of weight loss doom, you lose weight, you gain it back over and over and over again, I have a solution for you. I'm going to let you try it out for free for 10 days. Head on over to millionpoundmission.com. Start your free 10-day trial of the Transformation Reboot program. Now, let's get back to this episode. So with like your cooking and in your cookbooks and things like that, what type of fats do you include when you are making a meal? Are you like cooking with olive oil? Are you looking at coconut oil? Are you just, are you trying to avoid any of those things?
As more of a carnivore, I don't do coconut oil. I never really liked that very much. We'll use more like animal fats like tallow, lard, duck fat, that type of stuff. And I mean, duck fat, that's what McDonald's used to fry their French fries in. That's why everybody liked the fries until someone's going to die of heart disease. And so they change it to some vegetable oil junk. But duck fat's amazing, that's delicious.
So you brought up the word carnivore. That's kind of where a lot of things seem to be evolving. That's where the conversation seems to be evolving. Could you give us just some of the carnivore, like the carnivore starter kit, is if somebody wants to give that a try?
Well, it's interesting because everybody's like, oh, so you're carnivore now. It's like, if you look into my cookbooks from long ago, they had no nuts in them. They were pretty much zero carb. Like there was nothing that we were eating, pretty much zero carbohydrates for a long time. But what happened was, it was probably like 6 years ago, my husband started feeling not well at all. And I kind of said, I gave him an ultimatum. I was like, you need to figure out what's wrong because this isn't right. You shouldn't be this ill and not well. Well, it turned out he had Lyme disease. And I know a lot of you probably were like me. What is this Lyme disease stuff? Well, you know what? It rocked our world and it changed him forever. Yeah. And for him to live without pain, he had to get rid of all of these things called oxalates and all of these different anti-nutrients. Where are they found? These oxalates, they're found in vegetables and plants. And so I had to, change a lot of my cooking and get rid of a lot of the plant matter for him to not have any pain. And it ultimately led us to going from, a zero carb. Because if I use a little bit of onion or garlic and like making meatballs, technically that would be close to zero carbohydrates, right?
Right.
But for him, that little bit of flavor profile really bothered his pain, especially like onions and garlic. That's why they're off the autoimmune. You don't want them on the autoimmune protocol. And so that's what it is. The carnivore diet is the ultimate autoimmune protocol because basically put everybody on level 1 carnivore if they have Hashimoto's, Graves, MS, Lyme disease. They heal miraculously getting off of medication. I mean, that's huge. Like doctors are like, you'll never be off thyroid medication. I challenge that. I'm lucky that I can be more of a maybe dirty carnivore where if I have a little bit of spice, I don't have any problems with it like Craig would.
Right.
But I think there's different levels of carnivore that people can find their happy spots, and maybe find the success that they didn't on a standard keto diet. And again, like I told you earlier before we started, I almost don't like calling myself keto because of all of this slim fast keto and bad keto advice. And I just want it to be like a healthy lifestyle,
Right.
More than anything.
Right. So with that, like level 1 carnivore, what I get a lot of questions about this. Like, if I go carnivore, what does that mean? People always want to know, Maria, like what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's on plan, what's off plan. So are things like eggs, are those included?
Well, I just taught a class on Sunday about the carnivore diet, and that was, a lot of the questions that I got. I went through all the different levels. Level 1 for maximum healing, it's beef and salt, and that's it. Nothing else. Beef and salt. And that's the ultimate healing diet. And you think, oh, that's so limited. It's really not. There's a lot of different cuts of beef you can have. And, it can be really tasty and people thrive off of it. Level 2 would where you add other proteins like poultry, fish, pork, venison, bison, that type of stuff. Level 3 is where you dabble with eggs and dairy. I suggest adding eggs in before dairy. Those two are both common allergens, dairy being the worst of those. Some carnivores thrive on it, but it's all animal products. It's nothing else. Pepper is not from an animal. Vinegar is all plant-based. Like mustards, like even these zero carb things. If it comes from a plant, coconut oil, olive oil, if it comes from a plant, it's not allowed. It has to be from an animal. Then it is allowed. And yeah.
And so with organ meats, if you're on level 1, then you're still going to include things like beef heart, beef liver, beef, anything. Okay.
Yep. And then, that is the nutrient dense. That's like the ultimate multivitamin are those organ meats.
And what's your recommendation around the organ meats? Because that's where, like, I want to dip my toe in the carnivore water, but it's like you said a couple of times, knowledge is power. Sometimes too much knowledge I freak myself out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I have to know exactly how much organ meat I need because I don't want to screw up like the carnivore experience, but also I want to make sure that I'm getting the nutrients that I need.
Absolutely. And all the different organs like kidney, liver, brain, heart, they all have different high nutrients. So they're not all going to have the same, how am I trying to say, macronutrients, micronutrients. So you want to rotate them. If you really are not going to touch organ meat or you don't have access to good quality organ meat, there's a great company called Ancestral Supplements, where you can do like an organ complex that has all of them, thalamus, kidney, heart, liver. And so they have it in a capsule that you can take, and they're all organic. It's a really good quality product. However, if you can get access to good quality organ meats, you'd want to rotate it. If you can get it in 2 times a week, that's great. And I know you're thinking, I don't like the taste. Well, what we do is we'll get like a big slab of liver from like US Wellness Meats, and my husband will grind it up and we'll add it to hamburger, like a 4-to-1 ratio. And you won't even notice that it's in there. And it's like knowing there's a multivitamin in our hamburger when we make hamburgers or whatever. And that's a really great way to get it in there. If you're afraid of organ meat, I suggest to try sweetbreads first. There's neither sweet nor a bread, but it's really delicious. It's soft and creamy. If you're missing that dairy texture, that's kind of what it reminds me of, like eating a slice of really soft cheese or something like that. I had the great opportunity of filming cooking videos in New Orleans, and we had a big old steak and some sweetbreads, and it was really, really delicious.
Nice. Yeah, I love organ meat, and I'm kind of a freak of nature. I don't care how something tastes. If something, I know that it's very healthy for me, I'm all about it. Like I'd much rather have something that's so healthy. I'm like, like the health is my taste. if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
that's really, really cool. And that's, I mean, when I talk to my husband, like, what do you want for dinner? He's like, I really don't care. He's like, as long as it's healthy, I don't care. And and that's what's great about becoming a carnivore. Carnivores are the people that think about food the least. And it's, for people that are suffering from eating disorders or something like that, you're feeding your body the nutrients it needs. You don't have to be thinking about food all the time. And it's very, very freeing. And we have 3 chest freezers because I bow hunt and I fish. And, we'll get like a cow from a farmer. And so our freezers are stocked full of meat. I don't have to go to the grocery store, but I do have to remember to take something out the night before so it thaws. But that's as simple as it is. When we're done eating, I go to the freezer and I pick something out, and there's so many different options. It's not limiting at all. Like when I wrote the Carnivore cookbook, I had over 300 recipes. They're like, Maria, you have to cut 200 out of here. And so I did, and I put them on my website, keto-adapted.com. So people who want to be carnivore can start now before the book comes out.
Right. And yeah, your whole website is amazing. If people want to deep dive on the low carb lifestyle, that whole theme, I mean, that's the place to go. So now, Marie, you've mentioned hunting a couple of times, and I told you that the Keto Savage, Robert Sykes and Danny Vega, they're coming up for a bow hunting experience up here in Indiana. So what do you love about hunting? I know I get a real kick out of it when I'm out in the woods, but what drives you out there?
Well, I'm lucky enough to be looking out into the woods right now. My office has a great view. My stand's a couple 100 yards out in front of it. And
nice.
Like, I don't know if you get the fall colors as much as we do up north, but I mean, I'm looking at a tree that's orange, that's yellow, that's red. I mean, the colors are beautiful, and I'm an introvert at heart. And my mom always like, don't tell people you're an introvert, because I don't know why. She thinks that I don't like people when I say that. It's not true. I love people. You saw me at KetoCon. I hugged and embraced everyone, but that stuff makes me very tired, where I could run for 4 hours and not get tired at all. It's just people draw energy from me. And I think that with this lifestyle, or this job, I should say, I'm giving and planning everybody else's life to go out in the woods and be silent. And plus, I mean, we homeschool. My husband homeschools our 9 and 10-year-old. And so this house is never quiet. Yeah. And to be able to go out there and be in silence, man, like 3 hours goes by like, a fart in the wind. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And just seeing the sun rise, hearing all the noises, hearing all nature wake up. I mean, it's the best. So you've got to give me a good hunting story. Like what's your best hunting story that you've got, Maria?
Okay. Well, I hope people aren't being too, sometimes I get some people that are really cruel about my hunting. They said, you're cruel. How could you do that? I'm like, it's the most natural way to feed my family. Yeah, I have actually quite a bit of great hunting stories, but I'll tell you this one that's really special to my dad and I. I don't gun hunt. I only bow hunt.
Okay.
So I was out bow hunting, and I shot a very big 8-pointer, but I heard a snap when I hit it, and you don't want to hear a snap. You want to hear a thud, Right. So I was like, oh, I must have hit a bone or something. And sure enough, I hit the scapula. And when we were tracking it, my dad found the arrow, and it was broken off. The broadhead must have still been in the animal. Well, he said, I was really feeling guilty. He's like, it's a circle of life. We're going to feed some coyotes with this deer. It's just fine, And I didn't really think about it. Christmas came around, and my dad does gun hunt. Okay. And so at Christmas time, it was this really big deal for me to open up this small box and then a really big box. And everybody was gathered around watching me. And it's so stupid. I'm going to cry about it. I opened up the small box, and it was the deer scapula, and my broadhead was inside of it.
Wow. And
how resilient this deer is. The bone was actually growing around my broadhead. I still have it to this day. It's in my
wow.
And my dad, because what happened was my dad shot a buck with his gun, and he didn't want me around to gut it out, which is weird because we usually do that together. I was like, it's fine. He ended up shooting that same deer, which is so unreal because, I mean, just think about all of the deer in the woods and to not even be in the same place for him to shoot that same deer. It was my broadhead. It was the same broadhead.
Wow.
And so he mounted the 8-pointer with my scapula and everything. And I just thought that was, my dad and I have some really special moments like that where it's almost serendipitous. Like you can't even describe some of our moments, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. And just the fact that you got emotional about it. I mean, I know there are a lot of views about hunting and.
Oh no, we honor the animal. We honor every part of it.
Yeah. And you are somebody that's out there doing it right. I mean, obviously harvesting, people who talk about harvesting an animal, it's not just about killing it and getting the horns and leaving the rest. Like you are doing this for meat. And
I actually shot one yesterday and my kids usually sit with me. And I think it's a great homeschool lesson for them. Yeah. So they always are like, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it. And I'm like, no, this isn't the right one. No, this isn't the right one.
Right.
And once they saw how much work goes into dressing a deer, they now understand it's a full day. It's like a couple day project to really clean and dress a deer properly.
Yeah.
You don't just shoot everything out there, especially if you're not processing it at a meat processing plant and you're doing it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hell of a lot of work. So, much respect to you, Maria, on that. Now, what's your furthest bow kill that you've had, furthest away, furthest shot?
I've been lucky enough where I'm really patient. I'll wait till they're really close to get a really good
That's
shot.
What I do too.
I don't risk those long shots. I love my brother, but he always does those big risks. And sometimes he does a really bad shot and he wounds them and that bothers me. And so I'd rather have a nice clean shot.
Yeah. Yeah. My very first bow kill was about 35 yards away. And that's the farthest one. And I'm just like you, where I don't, the worst possible feeling as a hunter, if somebody's out there for the right reasons, is watching a wounded animal walk away that is not going to, just going to suffer from that.
Right. My dad always talks about, you're going to, it's a circle of life and stuff, but it's still hard. I mean, I was attacked by 2 German Shepherds a couple of years ago. And so my shoulder's still pretty bad. And I can't wait till I can actually pull more weight so I can get back to maybe a more confident distance away, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, we'll have to share more hunting stories at some other point. This is super interesting. You continue to like the layers peel back on Maria Emmerich. And I'm like, oh, that's super interesting also. I want to talk, I can't let you escape my grasp here without talking about your family. And I know how important your children are to you and just the way that you operate as a family unit. And
thank you. I mean, they are like, people sometimes get real judgy about me making, like, I'll do a cooking video in the kitchen and they're there. I mean, there's no way around it. We homeschool, they're there all the time. And to do a video without them in it, it would be almost hurtful if I said, could you go away while I do this video?
Yeah.
But how it all started, to tell you the truth, is my husband, I was engaged at 19. And so when we talked about having a family, he's like, we can adopt. It's fine if you have PCOS. He was really cool and open about it. And so we started the adoption process. And I was a rock climbing guide at the time. And so I didn't have any insurance. And he lost his job, which, if you know anything about adoption, if you don't have insurance, everything falls through. So all the thousands and thousands of dollars we put into this adoption fell through. It stops. And I understand it now because they have to look into, your new job and everything starts over with their, records. But at the time I was so depressed. And one of my friends said, well, Maria, you're going to put all of your recipes together to help raise money for your adoption. And that's where it all started. I had a reason to wake up in the morning that made me happy. And I put all that energy into these 2 children that I didn't even know yet. And that the cookbook started to help, and they still do. They still raise money for their orphanage. And what's really another sad part is the first baby we were placed with died of malaria, because that's common with these children. Babies are so ill and frail. And yeah, he ended up dying. And then, so when we were placed with 2 new children, they said, which one do you want? And Craig's like, we'll take both. And just like, that tells me so much about him. He's just such a loving father. And, yeah, I don't want to start crying on you again, but it's, they're just really awesome. They, you know, to maybe your eyes, people see us as an adoptive family because I'm white and they're black, right?
Yeah.
But to me, like, they stem from me. They are the apple of my eye. I don't see it as something odd until someone else will ask a question about their skin or something, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think it is incredible how much you ingrain them into everything that you do. And like, okay, so here's a great example. If you guys go to Maria's website and you can opt into her newsletter, and the image isn't like her being fancy. It's a family picture. It's
All right.
the dog is there too. You know, it's like it's a family picture, and I think that just represents who you are really well. And I think that's super cool. And as somebody that's, you know, a podcaster, an entrepreneur, and that's what a lot of us are trying to achieve, is being able to be a family-centered person and a family-centered business. So you're pulling that off nicely. Now, with one of the other biggest questions I get from people is the parents, the adults, they start eating keto, they start eating carnivore, they start going low carb. How in the world do we transition our children into this? Any advice around that?
The younger, the better. I mean, you know, when you're trying to change a 13-year-old, it's tough. But you know, my children were really young, and the first foods they had, especially Kai he was 1. After breast milk, he had bone broth, and he had bone marrow, and I know that changed his sweet tooth. He likes savory foods, and I'm not a short order cook. They eat what we eat. They love, if you haven't had my protein noodle lasagna, maybe transition with that, but don't tell them it's healthy. Just serve it to them. Because my mom's notorious. We were at their cabin, which is like the shack in the north woods of Wisconsin. And I was cooking pancakes outside, and they were my recipe. This was a decade ago or so. She tells everybody, I don't know if you're going to like the pancakes because they're Maria's and they're healthy. No, just serve it to them like it's nothing different. And, but I always, whenever I work with someone, try to find out what their favorite foods are and just make them a little bit different. So if you like lasagna, try my lasagna. If you like spaghetti, just try it this way. And, you know, just slowly transition. But now they're pretty much carnivore, and they never got into vegetables. So that was kind of another reason why we looked into the carnivore lifestyle, because my mother's great, but she was very judgy about them not eating their vegetables. And my husband did all these charts kind of for her, saying, here are the nutrients. They are not in kale. They are not in blueberries. They are in beef. They are in organ meat. And they are eating all of these foods. They are going to live.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is when you see a kid eating a Pop-Tart, nobody judges that family.
I know.
If you see a family like eating salmon and sardines, like, whoa, they're weird.
So how do you handle the social situations? Like they go to a birthday party and everybody's having pizza. How do you guys handle that?
The lucky thing is we do homeschool, so that makes it easy. What happened was we were on a really long flight to Maui, and I went to the restroom, and someone offered my youngest soda, and goofy me, we have a soda machine at home where we make our own fizzy waters, basically.
Right.
And so he didn't think anything of it, and he said, sure. The stewardess the flight attendant gave him a Sprite, and he threw up all over me. And
oh, man.
So they associate those things with not feeling well. And so I don't even have to say, you can't have that. They're like, is that going to make me sick? And I'm like, probably. And then they don't want it.
That's so cool. That's just that natural conditioning that happens. And that's the way that our bodies should react to basically the poison that's in things like soda. I mean, But
Adam, here, let me ask you this. So I'm not saying you have any cheat times now, But when you were first on your journey, did you ever like gravitate towards a donut and you're like, wow, that really wasn't that great?
For sure. And you have that like remorse afterwards, like, that wasn't worth
but
it.
not only that, wow, that really tasted awful.
Yeah.
Like, why? But I think we're in this so addictive, ingrained way of wanting carbohydrates and sugar. When you get away from it and you actually taste the flavor of it, you're like, oh, that really wasn't that great.
Yeah, it is amazing. I went on, part of my journey was I set a goal, originally was to go a year without any processed foods, sugars, anything like that. And I ended up going 1,000 days. And I remember just the way that vegetables tasted when I would eat a red pepper and it would taste as sweet as like a watermelon used to taste.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And now as I go into the keto space and into the carnivore space, I mean, it's incredible how our body adapts to that and really craves the health like I was talking about before.
Absolutely. Totally. Yep.
So, okay, before I let you go again, I got to make sure that people can get connected to your stuff. You've got a plethora of resources, and I hope that I was able to whet the audience's appetite a little bit here and get them convinced to dive into your universe. So where's a good starting point that people can get into your universe?
Well, I understand everybody's at a different position. If you're like how we were when my husband lost his job and you just need some free resources, I have mariamindbodyhealth.com that has over 1,000 free recipes. There's usually giveaways and different things like that there. Otherwise, there's keto-adapted.com. And that's where I do a lot of one-on-one work with people, supplement work with people, exclusive things like that is there. Otherwise, I have other free things like Keto Adapted on Facebook. Otherwise, I have a couple private groups there, like the 30-day ketogenic cleanse and keto carnivore and stuff like that. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram at Maria Emmerich if you want to check it out.
Yes. All right, Maria. One of the things that I traditionally do at the end of an interview like this is I've got what I call my implementation alarm challenge. So I challenge people that, they're usually listening to a podcast on their phone. I say, all right, set the alarm for 24 hours from right now. And, what is one thing in your opinion, Maria, that somebody could implement? I got a lot of people that are really feeling beat up mentally by the process of getting healthy. Yeah. What's one thing that you would just give somebody to try out and implement over the next 24 hours that could help them reverse their momentum a little bit?
Sleep. Nobody sleeps anymore. They don't. And it's a joke that I'm the Energizer Bunny, and I don't have any caffeine, but I make sure that I sometimes have to go to bed at 8 p.m. in order to have quiet time in the morning to work, but you have to rest. You have to sleep. That's when your body repairs its hormones. Your blood sugar will be much better if you get good quality sleep. And I'm not saying just quality 6 hours. I'm saying at least 8. I'm closer to 9.5 hours, but then I can really hit it hard all day. I already ran, lifted weights. I hunted this morning, like you name it, I did it. But I do prioritize sleep.
Yes, I agree. Maria, thank you so much. I know how busy you are, and this is, you're investing. Another thing that I respect about you is you are investing a lot of time in you, and this is part of your you time season with your hunting season. So I appreciate you fitting me into that schedule.
Oh, I'm so glad to talk to a fellow bow hunter.
Yeah. And maybe we'll have to have you come down for the bow hunting party at some point down in Indiana. But no, what you're doing, I feel like you're out there spreading the right message in the right way. Too. And I appreciate that so much. And I appreciate your time here today.
Oh, I'm so grateful, Adam. And you give me your address. I'm sending you those books.
Yay. Freebies. We love that. All right, everybody. So you've got a lot of things to think about here today. We covered a lot of topics here with Maria, and I highly encourage you to dive into her information because it will be well worth your time, and set those implementation alarms. And then we're going to get out there and own it every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Hey, thanks for hanging out after the episode. I hope you enjoyed this one and that you are ready to take action. And speaking of taking action, I want to call your attention to my free resources that I have listed on millionpoundmission.com.
Just go to the website. You'll see a bar across the screen that says free resources. Click on that bar and you'll see all of the best freebies, like my new mini course, The 7 Necessary Steps for Long-Term Weight Loss Success. That is free. We've got my Transformation Battle Plan Workbook. That is free. And then a free 15-minute strategy session with the PhD. That is me. We can get on a Zoom chat and get eyeball to eyeball and work on some strategy to help you reclaim your momentum. So all of those resources are free. I'm going to continuously add more freebies to that bar on the website, millionpoundmission.com. So check them out. It's 100% free. I'm here to add value to you and get you in a place where you feel like you are back in control of your health, your momentum, and you're moving in the right direction.